Hey everybody, this is Pastor Rick. Glad you're with me, and we are here going over our discussion about prosperity. I hope you are happy wherever you are and blessed. I am sitting in the as the sun goes down. It'll look different here in my house, but I'm really glad you're with me today, and I'm really thrilled. I'm trying to get you out of the sun, but it's going to be tough. So for a few minutes, we're going to have a little bit of sunlight, but that's okay. Look, it makes me look different, doesn't it, Sheila? It's like I got sunlight growing over my face. I'm trying to turn it so I won't see the sun, but it's too late. It's going to be what it's going to be.
Just think
Hey,
of it as a free dose of vitamin D.
is that what you think it is? A free dose of vitamin
You
D?
know,
Okay, well, we'll take the free dose. Um, I tell you what, talk for a minute, Sheila, about prosperity. I'm going to fix this real quick, see if I can. Go talk for a minute. Sheila.
Well, good evening again to everyone for joining us for, I think, a very exciting prosperity team meeting tonight. Not only will we continue that wonderful book that I hope each of you are enjoying, the by not pastor, I'm sorry, Rabbi Daniel Lapin, Thou Shall Prosper. It is a wonderful read. I absolutely love it. I have it in print and Audible, and it's just a great read and just rich with lots of information. But I'm also excited too, and I won't say too much. I'll leave that joy to Pastor Rick to say that we have a special guest tonight that's also going to be discussing home ownership and the value of benefits of home ownership as it relates to building wealth. So be thinking about some of your questions that you want to maybe ask for those of you that don't yet own a home or would like to own a home. So be thinking about those questions and be able to get some basic tips. Pastor Rick has been promising that we're going to have someone to share with us, and so our guest tonight, you're going to enjoy a lot. And then, of course, we're going to cover some of the information from Thou Shall Prosper, the some more on the leading change in chapter 6, and then in chapter 7, that foreseeing the future. And I'm certainly glad about that. The future, when it comes down to planning and building wealth and trying to put things in place, seems to be very near. Doesn't take much time. So again, be thinking about your questions that you have about the book, some things that you hope our guests will cover tonight. And let's give them a great challenge and a great welcome as far as that home ownership and coming out with us tonight. So we have Pastor Rick back. Wonderful.
Look at that. See, you just saved the day. I love it. We had close to 400 people last time we were here, and I'm so glad all of you come in. And I want to review kind of what we went through. So let me do that first. And I want to take you on a journey down the road here where we can talk about what we've been talking about. The book by Lapin is a book that Anna and Brian, can we show that? Do we have it saved where you can see the book Thou Shalt Prosper? It's a wonderful book, and what I've done is on the notes you'll see there is a summary of the entire book, Thou Shalt Prosper, and it's 10 Commandments for making money. And it's one of the topics that I think is very difficult for people to talk about, difficult for church people in particular to talk about, because they don't like to talk about money. They like money because they want to do things, but they don't know how to talk about it. And so what I did was on Sundays, I decided that I could not talk about money long. So thank you, Brian. I couldn't talk about money long because I don't have time. So I decided that what I do is I talk about it here. And this gives us an opportunity to have that kind of conversation in a bigger way. And I like the fact that we can. So welcome to my home and this conversation. And let's make sure I look decent for you. And let's get to it. Let me review, if I can, some of the things we've talked about regarding finances that I think might be helpful. And these are the 10 commandments. The first commandment was believe in the morality of business, that you should believe that it's okay to have money. And in the notes, Colossians chapter 3, verse 23. If you don't think it's right to have, you will never do what it takes to have it. You will struggle with it. You'll spend your life having all these excuses and all these issues with it. And I think that's unhealthy. You need to be able to embrace it. And the guest that we have today is going to come on and talk about real estate and finances and money. And it's going to be fun to have him here. And let him introduce himself to you in just a minute. Then we talked about expand your network. First commandment is believe in the morality of money, of business. The second one is expand your network. So you have to be able to have a broader range. One of the things that happens is you kind of max out. You get to the point that you get to maybe 50,000 or 20,000, and then you're done. For some of you, you want to get to six figures. When you got to 100,000, you were done. You can't go to 101. There's almost this limit, this ceiling that gets on your life. So he talked about the importance of having a broader network. Two are better than one, he says, Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 9. Then we talked about know yourself, develop a self-awareness for wiser decisions. I'm a big believer in being emotionally intelligent, knowing myself, knowing what my strengths and weaknesses are. I remember when I got to the point where I made $45,000, I felt really insecure. I felt, oh my God, I'm robbing the church. I think I should, I really struggled with prosperity, and I call that prosperity guilt. And so you tend to talk yourself out of money, talk yourself out of opportunity. And I really like the fact that knowing yourself is important. Examine yourself to see whether you're in the faith. Look at your life. 2 Corinthians, excuse me, that requires water. See, when you're teaching and you're anointed, excuse me, and you're feeling strong, it's amazing how you just choke yourself up real quick. So know yourself. Number 4, do not pursue perfection. I love this. Hey, Sheila, come back in for a minute. Now, listen to this part. What do you think about number 4? Isn't it amazing?
I was actually listening to you choking. I was like, what is number 4?
You got to make it work. And it fits the point. You're not perfect.
I know. But it's such a temptation, in a culture of excellence and but I think one of the things that we talked about with a group is making yourself vulnerable when you are, who you are and that kind of thing. And so I get it, but I'm like, I think he might be choking for real.
Well, I mean, I'm having, drive. I don't know. Here's the deal.
I think the challenge with the whole pursue perfection when it comes down to money, you get your plan and you working everything out, and then things sort of, go contrary to what you planned or whatever. And some things are just not a perfect plan. It's a plan that you need to work and be consistent and don't give up. So.
Yeah. And I think for me, that's part of my issue that, I thought I've never tried to be perfect. I love the verse where he says, God said he finished, but it wasn't, everything was good, but
good.
It wasn't perfect. Yeah. I thought that was an interesting statement.
Yeah.
Number 5, lead consistently and constantly. There's something about consistency that really matters long-term. When you do something every day, all the time, and you're not just inconsistent. Every day for me is a real calling. Do what you're supposed to do every day. Stay in the pocket. Do what you're supposed to do. Number 6, constantly change the changeable. Now that's what I'm known for. They said in a meeting yesterday, I am known to change things, right? I'm always willing to step out of the comfort zone and do something that's different. I'm trying to find where I ain't in light. There you go, that's better. The sun is moving around me. But finding a way to change things that need to be changed. One of the problems with religious people is they think you don't change anything. They have this idea that change is a sin and that your goal should be to never change anything. But you got to change the changeable and be willing to do that and not afraid of it. It's so easy. And sometimes your prosperity is hindered because you can't do that. You can't change. And then learn to foretell the future. What do you see coming is an important point. Now, what I want to do is go back a little bit, and I want to bring in our guest. And one of the things that he specializes in is real estate. And so I think in this part of our talk, the Bible said the prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. So Sheila Bishop, why don't you introduce our guest for us? Tell us who we got coming.
Okay, is he coming up? We have actually is a member of our church, Curtis McNeil, who again just has a wonderful background in real estate and does very good work and has a lot of wisdom and a lot of insight of and things that will be able to help all of us. And I must say, one of the best parts of Curtis is Rion, his wife, and so
the best part.
So I'm gonna just keep it. But we have lots of questions, and I'm sure Pastor Rick has the first question. But I'm excited to hear about what you have to say and share with us tonight about home ownership and why is that such an important component to building wealth.
Yeah.
Now, let me say this, sir. It's good to have you, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Tell them the name of your company so everybody know who you are.
So my company, my real estate company is McNeil 4 LLC, and my mortgage company that I'm a broker through is called Nexa Mortgage. So both sides, I have experience on both sides of the real estate purchase and also with the financing as well, helping people finance houses as well. Been doing this for, the beard should tell you, I've been doing this ever since 2006, believe it or not. So the knowledge and things that I have it just happened through just being honest, through opportunity and experience. And that's where it comes from. Just being upfront. Yep.
That's 19.
And Ms. Bishop is right. Rion, my wife, is the is the best thing. That's the part of me is my wife is Rion. Yes, it is.
And he got some cool kids too.
He does.
Pretty cool. Now let me say this. So 19 years thereabout, right?
Yep.
And so tell me, yes, long time it is. What when you think about real estate, I know in these commandments, the one we're on this week is foretelling the future. What do you see when you look at real estate? Is it a good business? Is it important to your future financially? Explain to us how important real estate is to building your wealth.
Well, if from a natural perspective, real estate is really the vehicle that you get to pay for one time and get multiple uses out of it, paying for it one time. And I think that's the way it was designed. You like, say, for example, when you buy a home to live in, you have to have a place to live. So that's real estate is one of the things that you can actually pay for and actually get wealth out of it, and it grows over time, which is your appreciation that you pay for one time. You don't have to double dip. It doesn't lose value. It cycles, but in the end, it doesn't lose value. It can lose value temporarily, but history says that it will come back. So it is the only thing I know that you can actually pay for one time and get a double use out of it.
So when a person buys a home for the first time, I want to get through that. I want to say he was a part of my daughter. He was a great counselor for her. Yeah. She wanted to talk to him about her real estate. Tell me, what is it that you think a first-time home buyer needs to know? Let's talk about the first-time person. Let's talk about the person who's had a home for a while. Let's talk about so the first-time home buyer. What would you say to them?
Well, the first-time home buyer, the first thing you have to do is, you have to be realistic based on where your finances are and your ability to be committed. Homeownership is not a short-term thing. So most people can go get a car and they say, "Ooh, I got a car. and 4 or 5 years is paid for, and that's it, besides the maintenance on it. But when you're buying a home is something that you have to think strategically and say, this is a long-term investment. So that's, your mind has got to be right to actually be a homeowner. The second thing is you want to be in a position so you know that nothing is free. So that means where you might walk into a car dealership and be able to put zero down and walk out the door, most of the time with home ownership, that does not happen. So you have to have a mindset that I'm a saver, that I'm prepared for, emergencies, things like that. So you want to be able to do that. Okay, that's the main step.
So let me say this. So when you get ready to buy a home, the interest rates now are what? What is the interest rates like?
They're swinging. They're coming back down a little bit now. They're around about the 6s, 6.5. So when you start seeing those 5s and 5.5s, those are teaser rates, and those are where you actually have to pay extra money on top of your down payment to get those rates.
So normally it's around 6, but you're saying 5?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Between 6.5 right now. They were as high as, Lord, about 2 years ago, they were going up as about as high as 7.5 to 8.
Mm-hmm. So if a person is going to buy a home, I want to get to what they're going to need to buy a home.
Yeah.
But FICO score, their score, I want to talk about that. What's the average that a person's going to have, and how much down payment will they have to have?
Well, when you're looking at buying a home, you're looking at a down payment of anywhere from 3.5% to 20%. So, like, and I'm probably going to jump the gun a little bit here. If I am, you can pull me back. Say in Chatham County, the average house now in Chatham County is running about $317,000. So, yeah. So,
Really?
So look, so in
75,000 when I bought it, 80,000. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. I thought I was gonna.
So 10 years ago,
right,
approaching 10 years, the average house in Chatham County was $217,000, and that was in some of your, I'm just going to say it, some of your best value areas in the county. So that was 10 years ago. So. Yeah. So now you're looking at, before you were looking at a average payment of about, on the top end of about $1,200 for everything. Now you're looking at about $2,400, $2,200 to $2,400 a month.
Wow.
That's with excellent credit and yeah.
What kind of credit are we talking about? What kind of credit?
So, well, you can start at the 580s, but it's very expensive. But you really want to be above 680. Just to be above 680, which is considered A paper. That's where you want to be.
So 680 is A? That's A?
Yeah, that's A minus. So A minus paper starts around about 680. So 680, 700, 720 is when you get to your A, and then 720 or higher is when you get to your A plus paper. And what I mean by that is really when you start getting around 720, well, probably about 750. It really doesn't matter if you have an 800 or not. That's where the true A paper plus is around about 750.
So what's the difference in terms of that? So if you have a 750 and you have a 7, what's the money difference?
So the money difference is the when you start getting above, I'm gonna go ahead and say, when you start getting above 700, they actually start to give you more credit, and you can actually get a better rate with the higher credit scores. Can you still get the same interest rate at a 650 as a person with a 680? Yes, but it will be more expensive.
So how many people, when they buy a home, are they married people? Or are they single people? Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So about 62% of people are married. So married couples dominate the housing market, and most people don't realize the reason why they do is because they need the space, they need the room. So single people, a lot of single people who own homes is just because they start realizing, I want to own something and not pay rent, and it's not because of space or anything. Most time it's just they just see the value in it.
Yeah. I know you are. I won't say you're cheap. That's not fair.
Yes, it is. According to Rion.
I don't think you're cheap. I think. Hey, Sheila, come back in here for a second. She's kind of frugal herself, kind of, sort of. Jump in this conversation because I know that two cheap people could kind of talk. So give me some of your questions for me. I know that I kind of want to hear, and I'm gonna let Sheila take this over in a minute, but I want to hear your perspective on money. Let's just talk about money. Let's talk about that for a minute.
You want to hear Curtis's perspective on money?
Not yours. Yeah, we'll come to you later. I want to hear your perspective on money, Curtis. Because you're talking about home ownership.
Wow.
I know you counsel people who are going to buy a home and leasing. Give me a brief your view of, because we're talking about prosperity on this whole thing,
Yes.
right? And I believe that buying a home is important to people who want to prosper.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So just talk about money for a minute. Hear your view about money, how you manage it, how you view it, because people need to prepare. So let me hear your speech.
So when it comes to money, when I learned that money is a tool, and that's all it is. So once you understand that you have tools for everything in life, money is no different than it's a tool to help you go from one place, one step to the next step. Mm-hmm. But with that money, you have to prepare for those things that you see that would benefit you down the road, per se. I can't put a year on it or time on it, but you have to look at it from a perspective of, what are you doing with this money? What is the purpose of it? It's not that, you can be just like me, where, say, for example, my philosophy is, I'm getting ready for, 10 years down the road. Rion's philosophy is, give me some of that money because I need it right now.
Exactly.
Just set that standpoint. But when she does it from the perspective of what she's doing, it makes sense. So am I tight with money per se? Yes. But at the same time, when the case is presented the right way for that money to be used for something that will benefit me and my family, I don't have a problem with it. But you have to come correct to be able to, be able to access funds to do things.
Sheila, correct. You heard?
Yeah. We got to talk about it.
Sheila, jump in. Go for it.
One of the things that I'd like to hear you speak to as it relates to the audience and the hundreds of people that we have, I think one of the things that Pastor Rick has done an outstanding job with the prosperity team meeting is kind of a throwback term, but can we just keep hope alive here? So, and speak to the people that do not currently own a home, but that's their aspiration, but yet their financial margins are pretty tight. And I know one of the things that historically that you've done is, credit repair. And I'm sure there's an element of that you have to do now. So could you give us just some basic tips or understanding of, you may not own it now, and there is a planning process with that. And I do believe that, money is a tool and that kind of thing, but I also believe in living as you go and all of those kind of things. Mm-hmm. And so what are just some basic things, or do you have some really live stories that you can tell of people that really went from trying to figure out, even from the bad credit to now owning a home? Do you have any of those success stories or things to help people be inspired to own a home?
Yeah. So I'll just be, since you got me here, I'll be frank. I'll tell you about me.
Okay.
Just be honest. So in 2006, when everything crashed, I must be honest, I virtually lost everything. And part of that rebuilding process was I had to stop assuming things, and I had to educate myself. Mm-hmm. And part of that education was, when you hear something, people talk about different ways to, start rebuilding again, is I had to invest in myself and start reading more And as I read more, I started taking those things from the books and I started putting them into practice. And one of the things was, take one thing at a time. And we talk about the elephant and taking small bites. And so one of the first things was learning how to reestablish myself, not the old traditional way, which is go get a bunch of credit. That was not how I reestablished myself. It was find a local bank. This is the truth. I found a local bank. I started saving $25 a week at that local bank while my credit was bad, just being for real. And I started forming relationships with people at the bank. So I would come in, just as I was told by another person taught me this, go in and introduce yourself. Just say hello, talk to the people, just always say hello. And as you just continue to build those relationships, then you sit down and you start talking about your vision and what you want to do. You cannot take this journey by yourself. If you think you can do it by yourself, you might get there, but I promise you it'll take you longer to get there. But if you allow people in your life to help coach you in the craziest times of your life, it will help you get that balance that you need to actually start seeing some success. Once you start seeing a little bit of success, I went from $25 a week. So I finally got to about a year later, I was at $50 a week. And as I was doing that, they then extended to me I think it was a secure card, okay, where I had the money in the bank, and then I would pay it back and approve myself about 6 months. Then in about a year's time, they gave me a little small line of credit, and my credit score went from like in the 500s to it just started catapulting up. And then I started understanding that your name is more valuable than any amount of money you can have. I'm just gonna be honest with you. It is more valuable. And once I learned that focus on making sure you're building relationships locally where you are. And I'm telling you, what I'm talking to you about is all this is biblical. I'm just being for real. It is. It's about establishing yourself locally.
A good name is worth more than silver and gold. The Bible.
Silver and gold.
But let me
So,
jump
ahead.
for a minute and say this. So you build your credit, you get to the place where you are, you're where you are now, which is a wonderful place to be, I guess, based on what I see. Even though you're being humble, I like it. Even though you're being humble, I got two businesses, right? I like that. I got business, mortgage business, and I got great.
And just for the conversation, we did have someone online say, could you just at some point restate the name of the companies that you mentioned earlier too?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And matter of fact, let's do that. Say them now since they want to know. Say the name.
The name of my business is McNeil 4 LLC. That's my real estate side.
McNeil,
McNeil, number 4 LLC.
Okay.
And
the other
then
is
the mortgage business that I broker on is called Nexa, Nexa, Nexa Mortgage.
Nexa Mortgage. Okay. And they can go online, I guess, and find those things too, right?
Yeah, they can find it. Yeah, they can find it.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, now here's I want to just jump in because I wanted to ask this. I realized that the whole idea of having repairing your credit, like Sheila said, and getting to a better place. Help me understand, why do you think some people never get there? What is it that stops them from getting to that place?
Honestly, embarrassment, not being humble, not willing to reach out and ask for help, or when someone offers you help, not having the ability to follow through, to get there, to move excuses out of the way, and actually write things down and actually hold yourself accountable. And I think that stops a lot of people. It's not what I've also found is that it's not, a lot of times it's not what you think it is. A lot of people think it's money, but it's not. a lot of times you're not willing to start where you are. And can I give you an example of what I'm talking about?
Sure, go ahead.
So say that average house now is $300 thousand. Okay. So you can't afford the house. But instead of you going to get that car, remember now, real estate is more than just a house. Real estate is land, things of that nature. Go find you a piece of land. So instead of going to buy a car, go buy that piece of land and set a goal to pay it off in a shorter period of time. Then you can pay a house off. So that starts the ownership of real estate. Remember, people can't build houses without land. You can't.
So land is a lot cheaper then.
Yes, it is. So land, even though land is higher than it was before, you can start your real estate journey by buying land. So that way you can actually do something that actually gives you tax benefits, write-off benefits of like owning a home. You still can do that with land. So you might can't afford a $300,000 house, but can you afford a piece of $50,000 land? The land is worth $50,000. So it's just things like that to think just a little bit different, so you can start that journey.
Let me ask this question, because now this is not church. To me, is a place that you never hear this conversation. Yeah. The only thing you hear in a church is about a church building something, right? Pretty much, right? So when you look at church and prosperity and the business you're in, do you think that there is a lot of conversation or support or any kind of guidance from church? Does church help you get to where you are? How does that help you get to where you are, or did it not help you?
Well, part of what helped me was, when somebody takes you someplace in the Bible that you haven't seen or heard before, and when they say something like a slave to the lender, you wake up like, huh? What is that? And then you say this little solemn voice, I don't want to be a slave to nobody.
Right.
So
that
when you go ahead.
That helped you then, right?
It does. So that helps.
So here's what I think. I think that we don't talk about it enough. I think the reason why I'm having these conversations is because I'm concerned that we don't have enough dialogue around the topics that would help people get ready for a mortgage, get ready to buy a home. Because most of the time when you hear in church, all you hear in church is give money. You don't hear anything about saving money, building wealth, anything about investing or anything. Next month, we're going to talk about investing with another person. There is a challenge when it comes to being in an environment that encourages the building of wealth and the giving of money. Not even to me, even the whole conversation about giving money. The church is one of the only places you go where all we talk about is giving to us and maybe to others sometimes. But the most of the conversation, 90% of it to me, is about you giving to us. In my opinion, if people came to church and learned how to build wealth, and they learned how to buy homes, and they learned how to do all those other things, they'd have resources, especially long-term, because what buying a home does and what building and saving does is it gives you margin, right?
Yes.
So
yes, sir.
You have the ability to save yourself. You don't need a miracle. You don't need God. You got your own money. You got your own savings. And then in some cases, you have stuff to sell, right? I've been there before, where you sell a piece of asset that you have, and that allows you to have margin and wealth and cash. Talk a little bit about how you think. I don't know if you can agree with that, or you see that way. What do you think about when you hear me talk like that?
Yeah. So the education is always so important in anything that you want to actually do, because the education is your foundation that you have to stand on whenever you're trying to achieve something. No matter how you feel, no matter what you're going through, you have to have some foundation that's actually tied to something. And when you talk about it and you teach about it, then people know. So here's a perfect example. We talk about home ownership, and we talk about the percentage of different races or ethnicities that have home ownership. The white ownership has always been in the high 70s since Reconstruction. It's always been in the high 70s. African Americans they were stuck around the 42% home ownership. It hasn't changed very much up or down. And I'm not going to go into all the reasons why. It was actually higher back in the day, but it's lower now because of different reasons, and we're not going to go into that. But there's education and there's partnerships that came with allowing them to continue that direction, to continue to have that level of such high home ownership. But for African Americans and Latinos, the home ownership comes with somebody has got to make a move, or somebody's got to do something to actually see that as the first building block for home ownership. And a lot of times, the reason why most of it hasn't gone up any higher is because when grandmama lived in small town South Carolina, I'm calling my little town, well, when everybody moved away, everybody came together, grandma died, and they sold grandma's land to Mr. John down the street. Mr. John been waiting on grandma to die for the last 10 years. So when they come in, Mr. John done bought up all the block. So wow. The ownership changes hand because most of the time when we sell our property, we don't take it. It's not that you're selling the property, you're not reinvesting it back into home ownership. You're putting in other things that go down in value or don't allow to set up that next level of generational wealth. So that's why home ownership is that vehicle for non-whites to actually be able to try to close that gap. That's a big old gap. 25-26% in home ownership. That's a big gap.
Man, that's strong. Now that's strong information. I think that you're right, that there is not a lot of reinvestment, and there's not generational wealth that's passed down. And so your point, then, you didn't want to get into that. Maybe we should get into that. You're saying the reason it didn't go up was because we didn't pass the houses and the property down.
No, we didn't pass it down, or we chose, or when we leave. So I tell people, there's nothing wrong with leaving. I'm not saying don't leave, but when you leave to go start your career or whatever, a lot of times what we do is we take the money we get from these inheritance that we get, and we don't properly swing it so that it actually is put in place to benefit the next generation coming along, so you can step on it. It doesn't have to be in the same spot where grandma was, but if you take that same money and you move it and you invest it properly in something that can generate more wealth, you can still close that gap down.
Well, but I think that happens because we're not used to money.
Yes, right. That's exactly right.
10,000 or 30 or 40 or 50,000.
That's right.
It's like my first time. So now I want to buy a car, I want to do some other things.
There you go.
And I'm really, I call it prosperity guilt. I'm really uncomfortable with wealth and prosperity and success. So I tend to give it away when I get it. And so to me, that's where the church, to me, doesn't do a good job of making sure that people and families, not just the church, they don't make, if there's never any margin, if you've never had $5,000 free, and you are 10 and you get it, boy, I'll tell you, the first time I got $10,000 free, you know what I want to do? Buy some stock. I want to go do something, invest my money, make my money grow. Because I thought $10,000 was a lot of money, and it is. I'm just making a point, though. It's not viewed the same way today by me as it was then. Yes. And so now I'm more prone to save it and not necessarily go and spend it.
But, and I think to Curtis's point, in terms of even talking about purchasing of land and being from small town USA, you may have a plot of land, and if there's nothing on it and you inherit it, you have to pay taxes, but then not thinking beyond how can I leverage this again in terms of building wealth. And sometimes, if you don't have, some money, it's kind of like, well, I can sell this and get a quick $5,000, as opposed to looking at different ways to make that work for you. Now, one
Yes.
question I would like to ask, because you mentioned about, I didn't realize until a couple weeks ago, I heard that the average age for home ownership is around the 40s now. And a lot of, again, reasons, the interest rate and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, I get that. But during the time when I was coming up and you know, starting out with home ownership, there was a certain term we use called a starter homes.
That's
a $317,000 house in Chatham County is not a starter. That's so where is that now, or is that part of the mortgage lending conversation? Because sometimes there's such a big gap. People are paying, and we know this. We know a lot of different things with different, you know, people we have to interact with, even in ministry. Your rent could be on the low end $1,500. There are people actually paying rent for $1,800. Can you own is there a house that you can own paying $1,500 a month?
Not anymore.
No.
I'm gonna be frank, but not anymore. We have.
I'm talking about outside of Chatham County.
Yes. So watch this. So when you go outside, yes. So you have to go. So like I'm helping. Here's a perfect example. I have a lady that's in Swainsboro. So she's buying a home in Swainsboro for $187,000. But her mortgage, though, is around about $1,400 in Swainsboro. Nice home. Okay, $180,000 here in the Chatham County area is going to need some work to it now. Whereas before, like I said, that average home when I first started here was about $160,000. If we sold a house for $200,000, man, we thought we was doing something, you know. And that was 8 years ago. So
well, what are your thoughts on a fixer upper?
Well, a fixer upper, my thoughts on a fixer upper is I've done a lot of them. But for somebody who's just trying to start out, I would be honest with you, unless I wouldn't recommend it. Now, that's just my opinion, because homeowners trying to buy a home the first time around is already stressful enough.
Okay.
But when you turn around and you're going to add the fact that most people don't have the vision to be able to see, especially a first-time home buyer, to see a house that is almost dilapidated and seeing that as having a vision to see this as a beautiful home. They don't have that vision. Whereas somebody like me who've been doing this for a while, I'll walk right up on it, and once I look at about 4 or 5 things, I'm like, yeah, let's get it. You know, let's make that happen. And
so there's another side to what you see on HGTV. It's not as easy.
Oh my Lord! Please stay away from that if you are a first home buyer. Yeah, so I wouldn't recommend it. But the thing about it is that here's where I encourage brothers and sisters. Listen, don't be afraid of something that's old. Go to the community at nighttime. Go to the community at night and just look at the community. Most people, what's happening is that African Americans are leaving the communities and white people are moving in. I'm trying to be funny, you guys. They made it white on the thing, but they're moving in. So when they move in, they're taking and see the value of something that you don't see. So they see it and they come in and they see a vision. Long as it's safe, they don't care about the way it looks, because they know once they put their touch on it or start building it again, other people will come. So if you have to have a vision to say that I see what this community looks like. Don't look at it as, oh Lord, I'm going into the older neighborhood. These neighborhoods, they get regentrified and they turn around. So as a first-time home buyer, I'm telling you, this is the time. If you're going to really see wealth in real estate or homes, don't be afraid as a young person to help turn a neighborhood around. And that's where your wealth comes in at.
Yeah. See, I think all that's really strong advice. I do. I have to laugh, because when you come from an apartment culture, right, and you go from an apartment culture into a home ownership environment, and you have tight margins and I've been saying this lately. Now, this has been my saying. I was deceived. I was tricked with church property. That's a whole nother conversation. Because a church property purchase, a business property is different than buying a home. You have what the calls come every 5 years. You finance a home for 30 years. You don't talk to the bank again. When you finance a church, you every 5 years, and during one of the downturns in the market, it was every 3 years. They would come back and they give you these short notes, and that's a whole nother conversation. But I agree with you that there is a change. But let me ask this question. Isn't it true that if you are going to get into real estate and you're going to buy a home and you're going to buy something for $300,000, and by the way, let me just throw this in before I get to the question. If you live in New York, you're laughing right now. All of my friends in New York and California are listening to us, and they think we are out of our minds.
Exactly.
DC, we got people watching from these areas. They are cracking up saying, you guys cannot be serious. In Orlando, the average is $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 for a 3 bedroom, under 2,000 square feet. And I mean, it's real. And the payments are way up. And they're coming up with these creative ways to extend these payments. Are there payments now beyond 30 years? Or is it, oh yeah, what numbers are they now? Where are they at?
You can go besides 40. They got them now for 40 years.
40 years.
I know. We do have a question online too.
Huh?
We do have a question online whenever.
Let's go to the question online, but that is amazing. Go ahead. What's the question?
Is there such a thing as rent to own? And is that a good idea or not?
Rent to own is only effective as the person that's actually doing the renting. So they're not bad, but the point is, are you prepared from a rent to perspective? Because a lot of times when you're doing rent to own, there's a time limit on you being able to transition from renting to owning. So the question is, are you prepared? So if you know you're not managing your money properly and your credit's not where it needs to be, that's not a good scenario. You're going to pay somebody a bunch of money and you're going to lose it in the end because you're not ready. So rent to own really is designed for persons who, like, say you got good credit, say you don't, and it's the right area or neighborhood, but you just need to save some money. So if your credit is right, your job is right, and you just need to save some money, then a rent to own may be good for you. I've helped several people flip from rent to owns to purchasing the property. So, but instead of letting somebody do a rent to own to you, make sure that you do a lease to own, and a percentage of the money that you're actually paying them every month is put in an escrow account. So that way, when it's time for you to transition to the purchase side, you have some funds to assist you with your closing costs and your down payment if needed.
Tell me about rental property. Let's switch for a minute. You a big fan of it?
Yes and no.
Okay.
And the reason why I say this, I tell people I'd rather buy a house, flip it, and move it on. I'm just not a landlordy person. I'm just not. My personality will not allow me to be a landlord. It just won't. I'm not gonna say I'm not OCD. I'm just the one that when I see something that needs to be fixed, just fix it, not let it drag on. And with me, rental property comes with a lot of responsibility that my demeanor, it just doesn't work for me. But do I recommend you have some type of real estate in your portfolio? Yes. And that's why I choose land. I'd rather buy land and manage land versus owning rental property. I just won't do it. The only way, if you own,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Do you accumulate equity in land ownership just like you would a home? Is it the same?
Sometimes it's actually better.
Okay.
And the reason why it is because land. So watch this. Land is what someone sees the value in it for what they're trying to do. So say if I buy a piece of land for $25,000 and it's sitting between two other pieces of property, and the person doesn't want anybody to come between them and the other person, it doesn't matter what the appraiser says worth, it's what the person who doesn't want anybody between them says is worth. And if they pay me for it, they pay me for it. Whereas a house, it's going to have an appraised value on it. Okay. So it comes with a little more management perspective as far as getting the value out of it. So I'd rather do land.
Let me ask this. Would you, if you had 6 acres of land, would you sell it? Is there any condition under which you'd sell it?
Right price. Because all I'm gonna do is when I get it, if I get it, I'm gonna make sure that I have something that's already in plan for it within the next 6 months. So maybe not all of the money I make off of it, but a percentage of it, I'll have it so it's ready to go into something else, because I don't want to pay the capital gains on it per se. So I'll have something else lined up. Or if I have something I need to take care of, I already know one thing. I'm not greedy per se when I know I've made a profit. And even when I pay capital gains, I'll take a look at it and say, well, okay, well, I made this much off and I paid this for it, so I'm good. So it's just about how you actually see it as an individual.
Is there a percentage of a person's income that you would recommend that they realistically look at as far as paying a mortgage, so that you're not, I could
30, yes, ma'am.
No, go ahead.
About 35, no more than 35% for the mortgage, and then 50% the mortgage and your other debts.
So we're doing real good at church, right, Pastor Rick? We don't
8%.
Yes.
Yeah, I watch it every time he said it, I smile.
I know, right? I'm like, wow. So say those numbers again. How much?
Yeah.
So no more about 35% of your gross income. So if you make, just using around numbers, say you make $10,000 a month, you don't want to use more than $3,000 or $3,500 towards your mortgage, and that's including taxes, insurance, upkeep. No more than about $3,500, and then you don't want to be more than $5,000, including mortgages and other debts.
Okay.
Yeah. I know years ago we had opportunity to buy a lot more property around us, the church, and we didn't buy all of it. We bought some, but we didn't buy all we could. And I think part of my concern was what you said, rental property and the demands that come with that. But I do think that there is and I want to hear your opinion about this. I think we bought land, which was smart, right? I think there's a great housing need, and we're aware of that. And so there are people knocking on our door all the time who want to put housing there for the community because there's a big need for it. And not many churches have land that they could sell or that the community use for that purpose. But I'm interested in your view of buying more doors, we call it, right? Buying more doors. And so you see that as a burden? I mean, outside of your personality, I know you said for you it's not. Do you see that?
We do have a question online that may be related to that too. Okay. How do you get the best terms for investment property? So kind of
let's take that, yeah, one, and then come back to what I was saying. You're muted.
Kurt.
Yeah. So best terms come with establishments. Like I said, you're going to find the best terms most of the time locally, because they can control what happens on the local scene. So a lot of people think you run to Bank of America, Chase. No, you don't. Not starting out. You deal with the local banks starting out, and your terms, when your name is right, your credit is good, you got the down payment that you actually need. That's when you're able to move around a little bit and do a little bit of shopping, because now they know you're in control. When they see your credit score, they see your income, they know you're in control. So now you got people shopping for you to use them versus you going out trying to beg somebody to give you something.
Mm-hmm. So do you do? So you're a big fan then of, if you're in a good position, buying rental property? Are you?
Yes. Yes, I'm not. So yeah, let me clarify that. I'm not. I'm saying just for me. Say for example, if you own real estate, if you want to own real estate, um, if that's not your forte, then you need to own real estate to the point where you can actually pay a company to manage it the proper way, and let that be a part of your annual budget, is having a property manager to manage that property for you. Because remember, real estate is two things. If you buy it right and you build it right, there's a stream of liquid cash that comes from it on a monthly basis or annual basis. And there's also your appreciation that you get over the years of owning it. So that's really what you should be looking at. If you're lucky to get both of them, then that's a win-win. But remember that it's okay to have either or.
Let's talk about second mortgages, because they used to be called smart loans because you could write it off, right?
Yeah.
Nowadays that's gone, and so you really can't get that out of it. Tell me your views about second mortgages. I have a view, but what's yours?
If you're getting the purpose of your equity is to use it wisely. What I mean by that is, if you got things in life that happen, use your equity. You know what I'm saying? Don't build wealth to suffer in the long run. That doesn't make any sense. But don't use it wastefully. So don't put your. Do I believe in them? Yes. But they need to be used wisely. When you get an equity line, use it wisely. So, and I'm not even saying something like, don't use the equity line to go and buy $100,000 car. And I'm not talking about that. But if you got a child or somebody that is
that plan, I mean, that's
but if you got a child or something that's in school and they need a vehicle to get back and forth because they're doing stuff, man, go ahead and that's because you're not investing in a car, you're investing in your kids' education. So just making sure that when you do them, you use them wisely. Now, a lot of people don't use them wisely. They just get the equity because somebody says you can borrow the money, you go get it, and before you know it, the equity line is jacked up to the max, and you don't have anything to show for it. So right. Be careful with your equity lines.
We have another question online. How do you find people to do remodeling when you purchase a property to flip? And, of course, you're trying to find someone that's people of integrity.
Yeah. So you have to do your homework. And that's the whole thing, is that you have to do your homework. You have to interview people. You have to talk to people that who've done this before, and ask them, about their experiences with people. And then you interview them. And remember, everything is what you're doing. Everything is an investment. So everything is a risk. As long as you understand your risk, then you can determine if it's worth the risk for you to do something of that nature. And you're in this process, you're going to make mistakes, but the deal is you have to make mistakes that are small enough so you can recover from them, or you can survive and actually, don't quit, but learn from the mistakes and still be able to continue to grow.
So what would you say in terms of if a person, of course, that owns a home, would you focus more on paying down a mortgage, or would you diversify if you had extra money to pay down on a mortgage and invest in some other things rather than just paying down the mortgage?
Yeah. So don't just pay down your mortgage. Mortgages, the stuff we saw over the last few years, that was 100 years. I'm just saying something crazy. That's something that never happens like that. The average appreciation on home should be between 3% and 5% annually. So that's not normal. So really what you want to do is you want to look at diversifying, like Ms. Bishop was saying. You want to diversify and start investing in other things like, stocks or things like that. You just want to diversify some. Don't rush to just stack all your money in the house, because you're not going to get ahead that way. You're not going to get. Remember, real estate is long term, especially when you look at a home. It's long term. So just remember that. When I say that, I mean, like, there's nothing wrong with having a goal of making sure, like, I want to make sure I want to have my house paid off when my kids are gone. Okay. By the time they're gone, there's nothing wrong with setting a goal like that. But what does it look like? Are you going to be poor the whole time when you're trying to do that over the next 25 years?
That is really
if it is, that doesn't make any sense.
I like that. I like the practicality of what you're saying. I really do. I think that is just absolutely smart, because I do think that there is a whole lot of emphasis on debt-free living that impoverishes you sometimes, because you don't have the margins and the cash margins to really, do it the way they tell you. So I like that. I'm surprised your comments about second mortgage. I've used, when the market was really like 0% on interest, it was like free money, and you go in and take the money out, and we renovated and does stuff with it. So I see that, but I also see the trap in it. The trap of, you go in, you get a second mortgage, and you're really not a good money person. And this gets down to knowing yourself, being emotionally intelligent. I know me, and I know that I'm not going to do this or that properly. I'm not going to plan. So having the courage to say, I'm not going to get a second mortgage because I know myself, is important. And I love what you just said. You said, use it wisely. If you're going to get the money, then the money should be used in a specific way. I think that is just absolutely, I am impressed with you.
We have three questions online too, Pastor.
Go for it. What's your question?
And I hope I'm going to say this correctly. What is a HELOC, like HELOC, and how does it work? You're muted again.
You're muted again.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I have some echo noise back, so I want to make sure I mute it with that. But yeah, so HELOCs are what we were talking about just then. Smart money, second mortgages, same thing. So basically what they do, a lot of times HELOCs are based on 85% on the value of your home. So say you have $100,000 worth of equity in your home, they'll loan you up to 80% of that. So say you might get $80,000. And then they actually just set it up on a payment plan like anything else, and you pay it back over time. You can do interest only. It just depends on how strategic they want it to be. Like, everybody got they have different programs or different ways you can actually do it. I like to call them, honestly, I call them trappy loans. And the reason why I do that is because, sometimes somebody say, you only pay interest. As soon as they say that, you jump on that only pay interest, and 5 years later, you still sit in the same spot you were when you first got it. And that is not the approach you want to take when it comes to borrowing money.
Another question: would you get better terms with a mortgage broker versus a bank or an online loan?
Okay, let me say this. Online loans are very risky because you don't know who you're talking to, who you're dealing with, especially for a first-time person. Somebody that's experienced, had a couple of homes or whatever, man, I say go for it, because you should be able to sniff that out very quickly. But everybody else who is in this first-time process, it is okay to walk into a local bank. It is okay to find a broker, go through a broker, look at both of them, and look at which one best benefits you. People with excellent credit. Now, I'm telling you, I broker, but people with excellent credit, a lot of times you can go into a local bank and probably actually negotiate better with them than you could with me. Because as a broker, I tell people everything, as a broker, we do more for you one-on-one, and spending time with you. So you're going to pay for those services. Whereas if you go into a local bank and they working your loan for you, you just might be a number, and say, well, the underwriter giving you a call, so, but the main thing is if you're a first time buyer, stay offline. Don't try to get a mortgage offline. If you got experience and done this a couple of times, go for it.
Do you define the current climate a buyer's market or a seller's market or a balanced market?
It's not okay right now. It depends on what part of the country you're in, but it's swinging
In our
back
area.
to in our area, it's swinging back to a buyer's market now. And the reason why that is because the average house used to go 2 years ago. The average house stayed on the market less than 30 days, and it would have 7 to 8 offers on it. Now all the mortgages now are everything is 67 days, and you probably get 2 or 3 offers on your house. So it's back to a buyer's market now.
Okay. Would you recommend?
Oh, did you say 67 days?
67. Before it was around 30. Now it's 67. Watch this. Above the average house price. Now, if you're below around that 300 price range, those are still going around about 30, 35 days.
Okay. Go ahead, Sheila. What's the next question?
What about using home equity for house repairs? Do you find that as a good use of using a equity line of credit?
It sure is, because guess how you got it? Guess how you got the equity?
Owning the house.
Owning the house.
Okay.
Good. It sounds to me. Go ahead. End of the question, Sheila. Go ahead.
Well, there's a question that Charles has. You may want to finish it. It said, should we be concerned about? I'm not sure what the about is. So.
Yeah. Well, while they're finishing that question, we have only about, oh my goodness, 8 minutes left. We don't have long. Yeah, time is gone, man. You've done great. I really appreciate your wisdom and your knowledge. I'm really fascinated, though, that in your beginning, you talked about passing wealth down, generational wealth. So you're like not a big fan of selling homes, passing it down, or taking the money out of that home and reinvesting it in some other real estate. You keeping the real estate wheel moving. As a church, it'd be interesting to see how that all fits into the church structure in terms of long-term planning and strategy. Speak to that. I don't know if you have any opinions about that.
I think if the mission of the ministry is set up properly, I think there's no doubt that ministry is growing through assets. I honestly 100% believe there's nothing wrong with that at all. That's just my opinion. I think that's where you should be. I'm gonna keep that real.
Say that again. Back up and say that again.
I think the ministry should be focused on building assets because you need wealth to continue to do the work of ministry. I just believe you can only go so far. If you got to just use, to me, it's simple math. If you got 100 people and they all give 20%, that's only 20%. But if you take a portion of that 20% and actually create something that creates repetitive residual passive income, then it's not a burden on the 100 people to keep asking them, okay, instead of going to this location this year, we want to go here. Well, they're still giving theirs, but then you still have the ability to actually continue to grow without stressing someone out to do the work of ministry. I just don't believe that's how, and I'm not a minister, but I just don't believe that's how he meant for it to work, where you just burden everybody with the visions and the dreams that he's planted. You got to have a vehicle to get there.
Now you heard that little comment, you was about.
I did.
Burden the people with the visions.
Burden down.
And
we do have the rest of that question.
And not the vehicle. What's the rest of that question before we close out?
Should we be concerned about, and this is a great question, thank you for asking this. Should we be concerned about receiving multiple calls, messages requesting to purchase your home? They even send email, text messages. Do you want to know?
Just tell them to stop. If you don't want to sell your home, just tell them to stop. Use the opt out and tell them to stop. The good thing about home ownership, when you owned it and there's equity in it, you're in control. And so you have to put yourself in the mindset that I am control. Pick up the phone if they call you.
So are these just independent? I mean,
yeah, of course. What these are investors. Okay. A lot of times call them because what they want is they want your home, because they can come in and pay cash and they're going to rent them out. That's what they want. So you have to be wise about that. And there's when I say this, when it's time for you to sell your home, don't give it away. Take your time, understand what the market is doing. You get you a smart realtor that knows what's going on. One that's not going to pressure you and say, take the first thing to come, take the first sale that comes along. Understand the comps in your area and be patient and let the right buyer come to give you what you're supposed to get for your home. Not some la la lumber you got out in the world, but a fair price. Most people don't understand real estate in a transaction. If you read the contracts, they're supposed to be fair and equitable. That's what it says.
Yeah.
But most people don't do it that way. But I promise you, if you have the right person and the right team with you, you can get a fair and equitable price for your home if you be patient and sell it right.
Let me close out because we got 4 minutes to go here. We promised everybody at hour and 15.
Yes.
So I want to thank you for your wisdom. I will say this: all the conversations about money and wealth in a religious environment do not facilitate the kind of thinking you just described. It doesn't encourage people to build wealth and encourage people to do ministry. And I love the little analogy, which I will remember, all his visions and dreams and no vehicle to get there. That was powerful, because I do believe that's what the book Thou Shalt Prosper does. And the next thing he talks about is called Know Your Money. And if you don't know your money and you don't know the tools necessary and don't understand money, you won't be there. Next time we come together, we're going to talk about investments with another guest, and we're going to talk about how that fits in the Bible. And I'm going to share some things before the guest comes on, like I did today, to kind of talk about the importance of building wealth. And I want to thank you. I think you are a great guy. I want you to say the name of your company again. And did you have one more comment?
One quick, they said, could you briefly speak to Heirs Property? You got about 30 seconds.
Heirs Property. Oh, I got an opinion. Go for it. What's your opinion, sir?
Yep. So Heirs Property. Heirs Property is so dangerous. It will drive you. It will. So when you look at Heirs Property is, if you don't set stuff up properly the way it should be. Hold just for a minute. Yeah. So Heirs Property, it can get messy if the people who actually have the property don't start talking about how to make sure it's set up legally. And I know we ran out of time, but there's nothing wrong with Heirs Property if it's set up properly and everything is done in the right professional manner before the person leaves this earth. It goes like, it's just like cutting butter. But when they don't do the right things because they're trying to hide stuff and don't nobody know what they got, it ends up in court a lot of times. And to be honest with you, a lot of times you end up losing the property because of taxes and liens and things of that nature, because they would not address properly after the person died.
And let me just say this as we close. Part of the issue with Heirs Property is that I've seen and other people I've counseled and think my own personal experience with it. I think that if there's not a mature conversation about the people you're leaving it to, you just gave your money away to the courthouse. And so to me, you have to say, I know they're not entrepreneurs. They're not going to save. They're not going to. You do better, in my opinion, selling the property, taking the assets and dividing them up before you die, and making sure that everybody gets a little piece of the pie so they won't fight. That's my opinion, my experience. And so thank you for your time. I want to keep my word. I'm very time conscious, and I appreciate, you're a smart guy. I love your analogies. I love your insights, and I take my hat off to you. And you're a member of Overcoming by Faith. Yay. We got smart people in the room. Thank you so much again. Let's pray. Father, thank you for our time together. Bless us as we go. Bless Brother McNeil for his grace and his time with us today. We leave this conversation believing that we've learned how to prosper. And I pray that your grace will be upon us as we go forward in Jesus' name. Hey, listen, we got more to talk about next time. Keep reading the book, Thou Shalt Prosper. We're on the chapter. What chapter is that, Sheila Bishop? It's
chapter 8.
8. And we're going to talk about Know Your Money next time. Got an investing guy that is a part of our church as well. We're going to talk about investment and insurance and how to save money and retirement and all that good stuff. So I'll see you next time. We'll talk more Love you much. Stay focused and keep prospering. God bless y'all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Good night.